I am in the underground parking lot of the hospital where something very strange happened. At the request of anonymity, I am telling this story. It is said that in May this year, Kiang's child was suffering from pneumonia, and the condition was very serious, hospitalized in a hospital near Jiaotong University. Due to the epidemic, only the wife could accompany the bed alone, but Kiang's would deliver food every day and take the opportunity to visit the child. After a few times, he became familiar with the environment, and Kiang's parked his car in the hospital's underground garage. The garage is very large, because the hospital has just opened for a few years, and the facilities are all very new. It is a mechanical parking space. Kiang's drives a BMW X5, the car model is relatively large, but the mechanical parking space is relatively compact, and it is not very convenient to park several times. Later, he found two side-by-side parking spaces against the wall, with a pillar and several trash cans between the two parking spaces. Kiang's car is parked there. About a week after the child was hospitalized, Kiang's has been staying in the hospital until about 12 o'clock in the evening, and only leaves after the child falls asleep. When he arrived at the garage, he got in the car and prepared to start the car. At this time, he saw a lot of garbage on the car's door frame and floor mat. Due to the weather and the child's illness, he had not washed the car for more than half a month. Thinking that there was a trash can behind the car, he decided to clean the car's interior hygiene before going home. So, Kiang's got out of the car, opened the front and rear doors of the main driver's position, took out the garbage in the car and threw it into the trash can, and then took out the floor mat and placed it on the pillar, beating the dust. Then, he threw the mat on the trunk and went around to the co-driver's seat, opened the front and rear doors, and started to tidy up the front and rear of the co-driver's seat. After taking out the co-driver's floor mat, Kiang's stood behind the car and beat the mat. At this time, all four doors were open. During the tidying up, the door behind the main driver's seat suddenly closed, and the sound was a bit loud. Kiang's was very confused because there was no wind. How could the door close automatically? He went forward to open the door, and then went around to the co-driver's seat to put in the tidy floor mat. After tidying up the front row, Kiang's began to tidy up the back row of the co-driver's seat. When he stood behind the car and beat the mat, the door behind the driver's seat closed again. Kiang's subconsciously looked up. There was nothing in the car. Why would the door close automatically again? He muttered softly, and then went around to open the door. What was Kiang's thinking at the time? He knew that the door was very heavy, and it was impossible to close automatically without external force, and they were far from the entrance of the garage. There could be no wind. The two doors closed in less than 2 minutes, which was very strange. However, Kiang's did not think much about it at the time. He opened the door behind the driver's seat, hid behind the car, opened the trunk, and wanted to see if there was anything to clean inside. Just as Kiang's was checking the trunk, the door behind the driver's seat closed again. This time, Kiang's felt that something was wrong. No one, no wind. How could this door keep closing automatically? Moreover, it was only this door, and the sound of the door closing was also abnormal. Kiang's smiled. He believed in science, just like what his old friend said. So he checked the door again, and after making sure there was no problem with the door, he opened the door, and then walked 2 meters away from the car, lit a cigarette, and quietly observed to see if the door would close automatically again. He smoked very carefully while observing. As a result, the cigarette was finished, and the door did not respond. Kiang's thought that it might have been a gust of wind. He breathed a sigh of relief, lowered his head, put the cigarette butt in the ashtray on the trash can. However, Just as Kiangza lowered his head to extinguish the cigarette, the door behind the driver's seat closed again, and the sound was very loud, as if it was slammed by someone. The garage was empty, and although Kiangza was a bit flustered, he was still very calm. He gritted his teeth and closed all the doors, got in the car, and drove away. When leaving, he looked around, and he also looked in the rearview mirror from time to time while driving, but there was no problem until he got home. As for this matter, Kiangza did not dare to tell his wife, he was afraid to scare her, so he told a few brothers with a good relationship. One of the brothers said jokingly, "You should go to see the surveillance." Kiangza thought this idea was good, so he lied that his car was scratched and asked to see the surveillance. After watching the surveillance, Kiangza never dared to go to the underground garage again. The surveillance showed that the first time Kiangza opened the car door, a woman in a skirt came over and sat in the back seat, and then the door closed. Because Kiangza's car was pasted with privacy film, the situation inside the car could not be seen from the outside. Then, these two doors closed, until Kiangza opened the door for the last time. The woman got out of the car, slammed the door hard, and stood at the door for about 5 seconds before leaving. After watching the surveillance, Kiangza felt very bad. The security guard next to him also found a problem and asked what happened. Kiangza was a bit embarrassed when asked. After leaving, he has been thinking, if he did not open the door for the last time, would the woman not get out of the car? If she did not get out of the car, what would happen? Fortunately, he opened the door. Well, let's see you in the next story.